Thank you for tuning in. In front of me I have this RTK GPS kit from EMLID. Now this kit was sent to me by Brian Justice, and Brian has been following my channel for some time. He's actually a professional engineer as well as land surveyor, and had this kit and said, hey Dennis, would you be willing to show how to set it up and how to use it on the channel? As part of that, I'm going to rely on Brian's knowledge of engineering and surveying to see if we can do some interesting stuff. As you guys are probably aware, the accuracy that you can get with these is pretty impressive. Now EMLID is pretty disruptive because if you look at these guys, while I don't consider them cheap, they cost about $570 US for the kit. You get the two modules. One you can use as the base station, the other is the rover, either on a vehicle on the ground, or in our case we're going to put it on the hexacopter. If you do any research of these RTK systems, they're super expensive. We're talking in the $5,000 to $10,000 and on up range. So what I want to do is just share how to set this up. I'm learning as I go, and ultimately we're going to get this connected to my hexacopter and Pixhawk 2. Some testing of accuracy with autonomous takeoff, landing, going to different waypoints and so forth. In this initial video, we're just going to start by getting familiar with this module and then setting it up. It's actually pretty insane. This has the U-Blox Neo M8T module on it. It's based off of Intel Edison. It has Wi-Fi and our connector for our GPS antenna, and then outputs for serial communication as well as USB for power, and I'm assuming updating firmware. I'm going to show how to get it on the network. We'll update the firmware. Then I'll show you the web interface that shows us the GPS satellite data. I'll go ahead and start by just plugging this antenna in. Now when we get to actually using these in the field, I've read a little bit about the spec on this. It's recommended to use a ground plane, just a plate of 100 by 100 millimeters. Could be aluminum or copper. So we'll need to get that set up at some point. The next thing I'll do is I'll just connect this provided USB cable to my Mac, and what will happen is it will power the module as well as create a local hotspot that I can connect to, and then we'll be able to configure it. With our Reach module, so far we've connected the GPS antenna as well as the USB cable. So that's all we've done, and what will happen is Reach will create a local network that we connect to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When prompted for the password, you're going to enter EMLID Reach, all one word. That's just the default password for all of these modules. And then after that, we're going to be able to connect to it through a local host name. We'll use reach.local port 5000. And now what we are actually doing is I'm connected to the Reach wirelessly, and I can configure it. And what I want to do is configure it to connect to my network. And what that will allow us to do is allow us to access it and update firmware and so on. So I'm going to give it my network name here in the garage, and then it's going to ask me for my network password, and I'm going to leave the device name alone for now and submit that. And what I'll do next is I will leave the Reach network, connect back to my main network, Garage Pilots, and then we'll access Reach through the web browser. Now that we've configured Reach to be on our network, I want to talk through how you actually connect to Reach. Now there are a few ways you can do this, and I always recommend checking out the documentation. The EMLID site has great documentation for these GPS units. So one thing you can do is use an app called Fing. You can install it on your iOS or Android device, connect to your network and do a scan. It will tell you all of the devices that are currently connected. I like that app a lot. I've used it. But in this case, I'm a command line junkie, so what I'm going to do is use terminal and the nmap command to scan my network for the Reach device. As mentioned in the EMLID documentation, I'm going to use a nmap command and give it my local network IP. And what it'll do is it will return a list of devices that are currently connected to the same network that I am connected to. So you can see down here this Murata Manufacturing. It has an IP address of 10.0.1.22. I'll go ahead and grab that IP. We'll open a new tab. And what we should see is the web interface on the RTK unit. So here we have status, config, logs. And what we'll do next is I'll click the settings icon, and we want to make sure that we have the latest firmware on the device. So all we need to do is click update. It will update the firmware if there's a new version, and then reconnect to our network. Now we go ahead and refresh the screen, and you can see that we have a new version of the ReachView app, firmware, all of that. So everything is now up to date. What we'll do next is actually configure and run the module. I've gone ahead and put the Reach RTK module outside just so we have a better view of the sky, and we're looking at the config screen. You can see right here we're in rover mode with a bunch of different settings. We can also go into base mode, which is a little bit simpler, but we're going to save that for a future video when we're sending corrections from the base to the rover. So I'll switch back to rover, and what we want to do is just use this single configuration file that will tell it to use the GPS module on board, and I'll go ahead and click start. So now it should be listening for positions. We'll go over to status. You can see here are the status indicators of the different satellites, and our GPS location is being updated. We should be able to see the status of these update in real time. See that one just went down. And when we have RTK set up with the base module sending corrections, we'll actually be able to see those satellites here. So that's a cool thing. The last thing I want to point out is this will store logs, and all of this once again is running on a little web server on the Reach device. So I'm connected to it over HTTP. We're on the same network. Pretty amazing technology for such a small module. Now, jury's still out on the accuracy, and in an upcoming video we'll definitely cover that. Looking forward to getting our base station set up. I'll probably put it on a tripod. We'll get our rover set up on the ground, get everything working. Then after that we will mount it to my hexacopter running Pixhawk and APM firmware and see what we can do with that. I'm looking forward to sharing more information as I learn about them. Once again, the EMLID docs are amazing, and I learned a lot just by going through that process. If you guys have any questions or comments, please post them below. And until next time, thanks for watching.